Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Friday, April 18th, third hour. It's What Just Happened. As we look back at the insanity of the week, we have three returning champions. We have Maureen Langan, my buddy. She is back, former Bloomberg journalist turned stand-up comic and commentator. Her dry bar comedy special is Don't Make Me Hate You. Check it out. She's very, very funny. Maureen, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Dean Obeidallah.
Are you in California?
I'm in New York City right now.
That's what I thought. I thought you were New Yorker. Also, Jason Salmon is here. Is that right? Pronounced?
That is right.
I knew him as Salmon, Jason Salmon. Then it changed to Salmon because better called Saul. And
it's spelled like Sam, and it's messed up all around.
I can't do this. Sorry, Jason, you're out. Texas-born comedian based here in New York City now. He's got a weekly video news recap show called Another Weird Week, which is just too close to what just happened. I don't like that at all. And his stand-up special, Biscuits and Gravy, streaming on YouTube. He's also really funny. He's done tons of commercials. You see him all the time on commercials. Jason, nice to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me, man.
And my buddy Scott Blakeman's back. We co-created Stand Up for Peace, which has worked perfectly. And we performed. It's really good. We brought peace all over. The whole world is just peaceful. It's just never been calmer. We've really brought it everywhere. And then he's performing all over the nation. You can catch him June 22nd in Manhattan. Part of the Radical Left Lunatic. He's doing his show at the Revere Room. Is it called a Revere?
Reverie Room. It's a new room on the Upper West Side. I did it March 23rd, and back by popular demand 3 months later. So,
well, I'm glad you guys are all here because I renamed the show. It's no longer Dean Obeidallah. I'm going full Italian. It's Dean Obeidallah because I don't want to end up in a prison in El Salvador. So, what's up, everybody? How you all doing? I'm Dean Obeidallah from Jersey. I'll be talking for the next 48 minutes just like this. Get used to it. Suck it up. Get off my lawn. Stop looking at me. So, this is what's going on. So, let's joke about a concentration camp in El Salvador.
The loss of American civilization. Yes, let's do it.
We are really at the precipice. I tell people we are staring into the abyss of tyranny. And at least now we're looking into it as opposed to looking up from it, which would be really bad. So let's start with you, Maureen, because you're probably the least likely to be rounded up among the three of us. So
I don't know.
First, Jason is pretty close. He's got the Southern accent. He can code Swift to a Southern guy.
Oh, I can just blend in. Yeah.
There's no problem. Scott, you're Jewish, you're gone. So it's me and Scott are gone. Maureen, what about you? You're not going to be able to vote pretty soon. We know that with the SAVE Act. But what's your take? We're nearly 100 days into this nightmare.
I find it so frightening, so overwhelmingly frightening. And as a comedian, I feel called to do more political material. I feel called to it, and I have been doing a lot more of it. Not if they're paying me really well and ask me not to. But anyway, no, I feel seriously called to do it. I'm going over to Europe and as well as the UK for 5-6 weeks so I can speak freely, honestly, in a way that I can't hear. So I'm doing a tour of London, Ireland, and I will be in Holland and Belgium because I find that I can speak more freely. I mean, there's a lot of anti-Semitism over there right now too, which frightens me and upsets me. But I see what's going on. And
you've taken that part out of your act. That's what you're saying.
That I love the Jews. Yeah, I'm putting that on the back burner.
You've taken all the anti-Semitic. I'm kidding. She's not anti-Semitic at all.
Jew, what are you talking about? I don't know any Jews. I only live on the Upper West Side. I never met a Jew in my life.
You know what's interesting, Maureen, what you're saying, that I know comedians who are Arab American who don't have citizenship yet. Like some are green cards and they stay here. And they're concerned about doing material about Trump right now because they don't know where it's going to go. And because you can have a green card, it doesn't matter anymore. Even though that's really one step below citizenship, you have all the rights of a citizen except for being able to vote or calling yourself a citizen. This Trump administration has made it clear it doesn't matter. So it's interesting that you're saying as a comedian, like sincerely, that you're going to Europe because you have concerns about speaking about Trump and what's going on.
Yeah, and I wanted to jump. I'm sorry, I know the fellas are here too. I wanted to say too that there's a British comedian. She was going to come on a tour of America this summer. She canceled it. She's British, but she has a lot of anti-Trump stuff. I have EU citizenship because my mother's Irish. Yeah, so I have the European passport, and I've been spending longer stretches over there when I go over, a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, just to build more relationships with the thought of being there for longer stretches of time, though not ideologically abandoning America. It's just when you see this, what people are not understanding is this whole due process thing is making my head explode. Whether you are a gangster in the hood, whether you have the right, whether you have a DUI, you have a right to due process. And we're all over this one chap who may or may not have beaten the crap out of his wife. But I'm very also concerned about the fella who was the gay stylist, Andre Hernandez Romero, who, he was trimming nose hairs. He wasn't dismembering bodies. He was putting on extensions and lashes. And I want to, it's so people don't understand, the Democrats are pro gangs. I don't want a gang. The gangs. I'm not into gangs, but I am into due process, and that's what's frightening me.
Right, I agree, and it's sad that a person, a comedian, had to cancel their tour. I think I'm going to use this as an excuse and go like, I'm canceling my tour because of fear of Trump. As opposed to I can't sell tickets, like I'm canceling my store at the Radio City. I had Radio City booked. I didn't have it booked. Like all these big venues, arenas, I had to cancel them. They're like, you weren't selling tickets. Shut, how dare you? So Jason, let's go to you, my friend. Where do you come down in this weird world of what we're seeing? And due process is really the key. That separates us from the animals, okay? The animali, because that separates us from Joseph Stalin and from Putin today. And Erdogan and Sisi in Egypt. Due process is what prevents a leader from going, you're a criminal and you're going to jail. They first have to prove it. So Maureen's 100% right. That is the most concerning thing. And so many people on the right have zero problem with ending it. We're learning this.
Yeah, I think the problem is that the Republican, I mean, the Republicans have marketing down. They simplify it into like catchphrases and do not level any nuance in there. And there used to be like that sort of the press secretary would use complete sentences and and things like that. Like there used to be at least levels of nuance. The only people working with him are people who are like, no, you won the 2020 election. That's the qualification. That's why we have a wrestler running our education system and a lawyer running our health system. And we've got, of course, the immigration system is being run by daytime Nosferatu and border sling blade, who can't pronounce. I think part of the problem is if you listen to Homan talk, the way he speaks, you're like, I don't know if he's saying terrorist or tourist or tariffs. I don't know what he's saying. And I honestly think he just got to the point where he uses all those words as if they're the same thing.
It sounds like his teeth are slipping out a lot. I mean,
it does. If
like
you
he's
watch
talking,
him, he
I'm
does
like,
look like
what has happened here? Is this a commercial for some kind of denture product? Like,
he looks like he's being played by Billy Bob Thornton.
Right,
I mean, half the time.
I don't care. It's funny. He went on Fox News like, we don't care what the courts say or whatever. And I guess someone actually talked to him and said that, we don't, but you can't say that out loud because that'll be used against us. Like, just shut. So he's like, well, we're going to listen to the court, but what are you going to, his new thing was, but even if you get Mr. Garcia back, we're just going to send him back. Oh, so you're going to use due process, send him back. Well, that's different. That's life. We can take it. That's what happens. So he went from like, we don't care what the courts say to the fallback was, well, he's going to be sent back anyway if the courts make him come back. So he got it. So Scott, what about you, my friend? Where do you come down on what we're living through?
First of all, what he's and his administration have accomplished in less than 100 days by taking us from a democracy to, people always say, gee, you think it'll happen here? It's here. This is an authoritarian, totalitarian regime, and it took Hungary years to get to this point, Turkey years to get to this point, even Russia years to get to this point, and it's across a whole level of things. David Brooks pointed out, and I very rarely agree with David Brooks, but this is an assault. It's not a Republican, Democratic, liberal, conservative thing. It's just an assault on the rule of law, assault of everything this country stands for. And this isn't just Trump, whoever, it's the American, the Heritage Foundation, the American Enterprise Institute. They've been planning this for years to systematically destroy, and that's not even my word, destroy universities. Max Eden from the American Enterprise Institute, is now in the Trump administration, said to Linda McMahon, this is what you do. Let's make these universities scared straight. Let's start off by destroying Columbia. So it's bullshit that this is about anti-Semitism. And I'm proud that 99% of Jewish organizations and a tremendous number of fellow Jews have stood up against this. Don't say this in our name. This is not about anti-Semitism.
Right.
In fact, this is the most anti-Semitic administration we've ever had. There's a guy, I don't know if we're going to get to it, but Sebastian Gorka, who, by the way, this is all, a rerun. He was back in 2017. I went back because I have a lot of free time to research. In 2017, he was an advisor. And then senators, everybody was speaking out against his ties to a far-right extremist paramilitary group in Hungary, which was allied with the Nazis in World War II. very anti-Semitic. He's been published in anti-Semitic publications. He denies it all, of course, but it's been stated he is by people in this organization that he is a member of it. Anyway, he was forced to resign in August of 2017 when Steve Bannon went out. He's back.
He's back.
So they're using this, and what they're doing to the universities, because you know what the biggest enemy to these people? Education, science, compassion, anything that they have not done one thing that is good for anyone, even their supporters. You know, they're good for racists and Islam. By the way, and Sebastian Gorka is, as you know, Dean, a renowned Islamophobe, and that
he's terrible.
Why deny that? That's a great thing. You know? So it's on so many levels, and it's here. And Maureen, getting back to what you said about feeling empowered, and I'm going to be in Italy, and maybe I'll do comedy there. I did it in Paris last summer and the summer before. But for the last 8 years in this country, I've felt censored. Every show I've done, especially temples and things, don't mention Trump. Don't do it. You know. And I feel more than ever now. If you know, I did a show last month. If not now, when? And we have to. And what David Brooks says too, what we need is an incredible mass protest across every level. And Columbia can't give in. All these universities have to stand together. The law firms have to stand together. Everybody has to stand together, because this is again nothing to do with Republican, conservative, you know, liberal, whatever. It's just a takeover of our country, and it's happening now. And we have to do everything we can to speak out against it.
And you know, Scott,
go ahead.
Just a quick thing, Scott. The point about anti-Semitism. You know, there's 80% of Jewish Americans voted for Vice President Harris, not for Trump. Right. There's 535 members of Congress. Only 3 Republicans are Jewish out of the 535. All the rest are Democrats. The Republican Party is not welcoming to Jews. Like they know it, we know it, everyone knows it. So it's a bullshit game. Yes, Maureen, you'd like to add?
They barely even acknowledged that the governor of Pennsylvania had his house
set on fire. Yeah,
I mean, that's like buried on page 27 on the internet.
Well, Trump didn't acknowledge it for about 4 days or something. So,
but you know what I have to say, and I do say this, as a culturally, as a group, the Jews, as a group, are the ones who will stand up for the Palestinian protesters' right for free speech, not to be conflated with being Hamas or terrorists or part of a terrorist organization. And I have a great deal of respect, because those are the people who generally lead the way of those kind of organizations. That's ACL.
Nice, because generally when someone begins a sentence with the Jews, it doesn't go like that.
Doesn't end well.
That went a good way. That went a good way.
You find that if you're following what's going on in the organization.
No, I do. No, and yes, the ADL at first was supporting the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, and then they flipped. So you've only got the far right. Again, it's that 20% of the Jewish population that supported Trump. Overwhelmingly, Jewish Americans in our country have been the fighters on the front lines of civil rights, as Scott and I know. We've talked about it so many times in the past. And Cheney and Goodman were killed down in the South and Mississippi in the civil rights movement, and on the front lines of fighting for freedom for all people. So yeah, this is they're using it because then they can go like, what are you? You're not against anti-Semitism? And the president of Harvard's Jewish. Garbage. Like, we're not doing this. Because I don't know if people read the letter with this administration, and I read a lot of it on air. It's like 20 bullet points of controlling the school, governance, tenure, student groups they want banned, and all this. Literally like 1.5 has to do with anything with Jewish students at all. The rest is literally controlling the academic freedom. They have to comply with DHS, with immigration stuff. It was full control of Harvard University to bring it to its knees.
And I think that's part of the marketing problem is, instead of, you know, we get into all these nuances that people just fade out of, and we pretend like it. But I mean, simply saying that Harvard got their cancer research defunded because they didn't agree to let Linda McMahon determine what they taught. I mean, that right there, if you just say that sentence, that makes...
Say it again. It's a good sentence. Say it again, seriously.
Harvard got cancer research, their cutting edge cancer research, defunded because they wouldn't let Linda McMahon determine what they taught.
I like it, except for the Linda McMahon part, because most people don't know who she is.
Because they wouldn't let they wouldn't let the Trump regime executive
dictate what they're going to do. So I'm chatting with Maureen Langan, Jason Salmon, right? That's how I'm getting it right. Scott Blakeman. I'm relearning his name after all these years. But Sebastian Gorka, who works in the Trump administration, he's the counterterrorism czar. He is tied to Hungarian Nazis, literally wore their pin in the past. They love him.
Oh, God.
Yes, I know. And the forward years ago in the first term went through and documented his ties to these Hungarian Nazis through time. He has said now, and he's a day walking vampire. Like Jason, you're talking about, he is
Yeah.
like a Dave's like technically aiding and abetting. They're aiding and abetting terrorists is a criminal. He accused anyone who's speaking out for Mr. Garcia. We're on the side. They're on the side of terrorism, and we
Yeah.
must put them in a prison. If I can hear his voice, I could do it better. But
Even Bela Lugosi's like, dude, tone it down.
this is
bad.
so Scott, what do you think? I mean,
Well-
this is worse than after 9/11 when you're on the side of the terrorists if you spoke out against the war. Republicans always uses this. If you now speak in favor of due process, you're pro-terrorist.
Well, what Marco Rubio said, said that now they've gotten to, and with Mahmoud Khalil and the other gentleman from Colombia and the woman from Tufts, they're saying now, obviously they didn't commit any crimes or anything. All they did was protest, which we were allowed to do in this country. But they're saying anything that could undermine the foreign policy of America is grounds for deportation, which could be anything. How do you determine that? But getting back to Gorka, he himself was the biggest hypocrite, among other things. He wants to, say either with us or against us, he should be deported. He shouldn't even be in this country because his organization that many people avowed that he is a part of, despite his denials, Vitesse Rend, was declared an organization by the State Department because it colluded with the Nazis. It sent hundreds of thousands of Jews to their death. On his application, he became a citizen in 2012. They said if he didn't say that he was a member of Vitesse Rend, which is the truth, he would probably grounds for not being admitted into this country. So it's ironic that here's a guy who wants to deport other people, and by all rights, he shouldn't be in this country. And this was brought up in 2017, and at a different time when he was forced out, and we need to start mentioning this again.
The Vitesse Rend, was that a dancer in the 40s? What's a Vitesse Rend? How come I don't
Vitesse
know?
Rend was it's still is a far right militarist group that aligned with the Nazis and colluded with Nazis to send hundreds of thousands, and it still exists.
Sorry, I didn't know.
They
Very
also did
anti-Semitic.
burlesque dancing. I don't know.
Yeah, it
if
sounds
That
like
was
they
a
did-
side thing they
confused.
did.
See,
Yeah, maybe
cabaret?
they had a whole burlesque.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you
He
ever see the
claimed
play
he was in the
Cabaret?
burlesque part of the
It's
organization.
Right.
split off. It's split
Right, and
off.
then-
They're much.
Sebastian Gorka was the master of ceremonies. He was the Joel Grey character. That
I mean,
was based on
that's
him in
just
the
the
original
sort of-
yeah,
movie.
he does sort of look like an evil Joel Grey character.
Where he's walking around with
Right.
Liza Minnelli from.
But that's
the
Marco
70s.
Rubio. I mean, basically said, hey, if I read a mean meme about you and I'm having a lunch that's not agreeing with me, that constitutes me being able to send you out of the country.
How could the Secretary of State have that kind of power? And it's a Cold War era
It's
law. It's
insane.
1952. It was during the Red Scare. So they're going to just say, these people are speaking out maybe in favor of the Soviet Union or against us, like getting a Cold War mentality, whatever it might have been. That's where it comes from. And they're trying to apply it now. And that makes sense because 1950s is so much of where MAGA is, the pre-Civil Rights Act, pre-Voting Rights Act, before women could have real control of their own body. Now that we're back.
Before
Birth control. Yeah, but before Griswold versus Connecticut for birth control, that was guaranteed in the 1960s. So remarkable times here. And Scott, you were mentioning the student, the latest one, Mohsen Madawi, he was in Vermont. He's a 10-year green card holder. This is a guy who was on 60 Minutes in 2023, where they highlighted his work in speaking to Jewish students and trying to build bridges. And he actually left the protests in Colombia before the encampments even began. And he was not part of it. This is a guy who's talked about the link between anti-Semitism and occupation and oppression of Palestinians, that this is our injustice that we have to fight everywhere. Yet because of a far-right group, Bitar USA, that is the ADL has announced them, but they're a far-right Jewish group who has been feeding information to the Trump administration. That's how they found him here.
Yeah, well, that's what they're doing. They're doxing all these people. They're giving names, and they just take it. And as you said, this person is exactly the kind of person who should be in this country, who's a model student, and he was feared being, caught up in this, and he was at his immigration hearing, and that's they got him in Vermont. And again, this has nothing to do with. Obviously, I mean, he's the person you want. And the point is, what the government has done is also criminalize dissent against the war in Gaza. They've criminalized, they conflate pro-Palestinian, which we all should be, because 70,000 or more have been killed. And of course, we should also mourn the 1,200 Israelis and the hostages and all that. But it's again, I have to say again, it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It's about just control. And it is like the blacklisting, like you said. What one of the demands of Harvard is to name names, name all
Yeah.
the foreign students that are there, everything about them.
Oh,
And so, and by the way, what's the other act that they're using from like 1793, some
1798, I
alien
think.
act, you know? So, but getting back, and I think Jay said this too, like with Rubio, where do they get this power? They don't have the power, but they're just doing it. And hopefully the courts will stand. I mean, they've certainly been rising up, but they're ignoring the courts. So we're definitely at a constitutional crisis. But and talking about getting rid of cancer research at Harvard, dismantling USAID, which is as nonpartisan as you can get, already people have died because of dismantling this organization in Africa with cholera, and it's going to lead to millions of deaths because HIV/AIDS will have resurgence. There's no rhyme or reason other than a lack of compassion and the tariffs throwing that in is just destroying.
Well, look, but Trump loves that we're not talking about the tariffs, right? We've not been talking about the tariffs the last week because that was really dragging down his approval numbers, and it still is. It's still having it because that's a human issue, and people are seeing their 401k, IRA, stock portfolios. They're seeing prices now begin. They're starting. The process is beginning. There's a 10% tariff on everything coming in, and a huge one on China. So those are starting to manifest now all over the place. And on some level, I mean, Maureen, the lesson of the Trump administration is if you attack the U.S. Capitol on Trump's behalf, you're a patriot, you get a pardon. You speak out about Palestinians, you get deported.
it's
And
so
this is the country we live in.
mind-boggling to me. It's so mind-boggling to me. Just to tag on to something that Scott said, also USAID was providing birth control to some of the poorest women on this planet. So now you're making women have forced births in some of the poorest areas where they can't even feed their own selves and their children that they have already. It is the most inhumane, lack of compassion thing. I'm saying this on Good Friday. I was raised Irish Catholic. I even went into church last night because my dad just passed away, and I'm not a big church goer. I was raised going to church, and I'm walking by, where's everybody going to church? Oh my God, it's Holy Thursday. Your head would explode that I didn't remember that. So I went in, I just said a little prayer, stayed a while, because I just see all this lack of compassion all over the place for people. And I don't know what to do. I mean, I can post stuff on Facebook and Instagram, and then everybody hates you, and you go back, you got lunatics, and it's good to know who the lunatics are. But I don't feel as empowered as I would like, and that's frustrating for me. Though it's nice to see the Big Ten, the Final Four, the last straw, whatever the hell it is, coming out and supporting. It's good to see Harvard having a set. So that is good. But we're seeing masked people grab and take people off the streets of the United States of America without any charges, without due process, and putting them in foreign prisons. This is what they did during Sakharov's time in Russia. This is what they did. It's so mind-boggling.
What they did during Hitler's time.
Yeah.
I mean, Auschwitz was in Poland.
Right. True. And they did, and what they done in Putin, just in the more modern era. I mean, Putin comes to power in 2000 in an election that was somewhat legitimate, to be honest, when you look back on the reporting of it. And from there, first thing he did, went after the media. Then they had propaganda, a big part of it. Then they went after dissent. They went after the schools. They're following the playbook. Viktor Orban in Hungary did the same thing, but it took years and years with Viktor Orban. This has been much quicker. They know they have to effectuate massive change now. If not, the race for 2020 begins and some other Republicans start running. Trump wants to have it where you can't even run against them. That's going to be interesting after the midterm. If any Republican says they're running and how Trump responds and attacks that person. And then you'll be clear, no other Republican will run. And then
we get a Democrat to run in the next election that can win. And who is it? And who's on the bench? And that's why I'm so pissed at Biden, because he said he'd be one term and he would be the bridge to the next term, the next person. And he wasn't. And he's up there blabbering. And the poor guy, I like him. Listen, I would have voted for him if he was in a jar of formaldehyde. Trust me. But my point is, what are we doing to elicit confidence in who the party is? I'm speaking for myself.
And that's part of it, the need for leadership. And there's going to be protests tomorrow on Saturday all over the country again. Jason, how much do you think the protests, like, do they matter in an emotional way? Do you think they inspire other people to stand up and speak out? Or do they alert some people who are not paying attention? Like, something's weird. I've never seen all these protests like this.
I think the protests help do two things. One, they create a groundswell because the fact is all these Republicans are afraid of, Lisa Murkowski said it, that these Republicans are afraid of the retribution coming from the top. But if you make them more afraid of the groundswell against them coming from below, coming from their constituents, coming from their voters who are going to vote them out of office, there's a balance where you can sway that because it doesn't matter what he's doing. If you're not going to be in office, it's useless to you.
True.
And the other thing is it does exactly what I was talking about. It congeals a message because you have a poster board to put your message on. And when you're talking about Rubio is using a law that was geared to keep Jews out of this country to persecute people who are advocating for the cooperation of Jews and Palestinians. Like if you could sum that, just that's what he's doing. They're using
I,
anti-Semitism to combat cooperation.
And remember, too,
well,
these are just a bunch of liars. It's not just Trump. They
Yeah.
embarrassed the CNN. Who was the great CNN reporter? They were talking about this, and Stephen Miller, who is just, it should be the poster child for just despicable harm. They're all horrible people, and that really isn't.
Right.
But anyway,
Right.
he said, no, the Supreme Court ruled in our favor.
Yeah.
It was 9-0 the other way. I was talking, Jason, about you know what I do when I feel down? I binge watch Republican town halls because that is
were they getting
encouraging to
yelling at
see.
them? That's great.
But it is beyond just being primary. Lisa Murkowski talks about and others. They fear for their lives. I mean, this isn't just primary. They're
But
really.
I think they have to actually, I mean, look, we saw what happened with Shapiro and the president's not going to acknowledge it, but if you actually draw attention to this is literally what's happening. You have to draw attention to the little stuff because everybody gets focused on the chaos at the top. And look, and they're great at lying. Well, they're terrible at lying, but they're great at playing the role of taming of the shrew. That's what they do. That's their thing. We're going to take what you see and tell you that the opposite is happening so many times that you're
Yeah.
going to think that's a viable alternative. They've
Yeah,
got
and I
the
still have a-
marketing thing down. It's simple, repetitive,
Yeah.
and even if it's nonsense, it
You know what
sticks.
my takeaway from this is, Jason,
What is
is
your takeaway?
Scott binge watches town halls when he's upset and depressed, and I just binge ice cream and red wine. But everybody feels
Well, I do that too at the same time.
Yeah. I do a combination of the two things, and I call that Ted Lasso.
Oh, that's your Ted
Oh,
Lasso.
Yeah,
Ted Lasso, we need Ted Lasso.
because I pretend like it's me.
And by the way, people don't know the Senator Lisa Murkowski from a Republican senator from Alaska this week, who said, we are all afraid that I certainly have not been here before. And I'll tell you, it's very anxious times. But my advice to Murkowski is like, the Republican Party came up and is gone. Just become a Democrat. Join us now.
Yeah.
We'll do what we can to protect you. And you're probably not going to win re-election anyway. She may not have been running for re-election, but that Republican Party's done. That party is over. I mean, the judge yesterday who wrote the opinion slamming the Trump administration on the Garcia case was appointed by Ronald Reagan. Those Reagan Republicans, those values are all gone. I disagree with those values, but they were still American. Those values are gone. It's replaced by MAGA. MAGA, look, all the stuff we're seeing, everything you're talking about, all the pain you're feeling and the concern you have for our Constitution. Gallup poll this week asking approval of Trump. 90% of Republicans approve of what Trump is doing. So 90% see this, ignoring the rule of law, controlling the institutions, disappearing people who say things about Palestine, and even the tariffs. Like, that's it. I love all of this. I'm like, well,
I will say that from being online and talking to people who voted for Trump, I don't think they do see it. There's so much of a right-wing ecosystem, and in fact, it's the dominant news driver.
Oh, yep.
Even compared to the old school CBS, NBC, like all of those, right-wing news is way bigger driver of the daily feed of news. And I guarantee, I will tell you, these people have no idea because I've mentioned it and they're like, what are you talking about?
Oh, yeah. They claim like they were being censored.
The tariffs, right. The tariffs were the only thing that could break through because their prices go up. And
right, exactly. Well, they see their prices.
Right. That's the only thing. But you're right. I had on Angelo Coruscant yesterday from Media Matters. That's a media watchdog group. He's on MS all the time. And they've done analysis right now. The media narrative domination that Trump and the right have is unlike anything we've ever seen before. And part of it is the impotence of the left. But it's not only that, they've invested online so much that they built an ecosystem that we're not even in the same universe.
That's
And it's
true.
all flourishing right now. Like it's all blossoming now. It's the spring. And unfortunately, we're seeing it's like a springtime for Hitler. This is what's happening right now. And by the way, just so people know, because we can quantify this, Fox News ratings last quarter, the highest in their history. Last
Yeah.
quarter. Yes, the highest in their history. They're averaging 2 million viewers a day. Other shows are higher, but 2 million. And to give you context, MS is averaging about 600,000 and CNN around 500,000. So combined, those two are not even just about 50% of what Fox is getting. That's where we are. We are so outgunned on getting the message out. It's really
There was some
Yeah.
encouraging thing, the Midas touch. I mean, I don't
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
is
But-
number one and knocked off Joe Rogan. But yes, that's a world, and the Democrats, what they should have done, Kamala could have gone on Joe Rogan. No, we don't want to do that. So yes, there's this ecosystem of bros and these podcasts that a lot of people listen to. But I do think, and Jason, I've held on to a few Facebook friends who represent that point of view, and they say, "Oh, why are they going after Elon Musk? He's just uncovering fraud." I mean, they just hold on to these lies. And with USAID, which, as Maureen said, is such a valuable organization, which is now gone, they owe $50 million to condoms in Gaza. And the press secretary said that. What it was to the continent of Africa, which Gaza, not Gaza in the Middle East. But they feed on these 18,000 for drag show, and they just jump on that. So, but I do think that, again, we are the majority still, but it's a
Are we?
sadly a silent. I know they'll claim, I know most of the people this, but I just think we need, and getting back to power of protest, the more we do it, because not everyone are news junkies like we are, and that people need to be, that's really happening. I didn't know about that. And I read a lot of stuff, and you don't see it in mainstream publications, what's going on, and especially what's going on in Gaza too. It's very poorly reported, except
right now it's gone.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we have to be hopeful. And as much as I love to travel, and we got to stay here. I know friends who are talking about moving, but this is really it. I mean, it was hyperbole maybe years ago, like, oh, Reagan's the worst thing ever, Bush is the worst thing ever. And it seemed that way at the time, but this is way, way, way beyond that, because they're destroying our
And
foundation.
I will say this as an entertainer, and I have found, and I was afraid that I was going to lose half my crowd. I started saying what I thought was true. I started just saying, look, I can't not address this.
That's right.
And once I started doing that, I've increased my followers and
Wow.
fan base by exponents.
That's
I
great.
mean, and I'm telling you, there's people out there,
Yeah.
but people who are good at saying the message should say the message. People who are good at doing the legal stuff should do the legal stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about Democrats is they overthink things. The thing about Republicans is they underthink things. And we got to understand some of it with people like comedians who are really good at taking an overthought thing and making it into a simple concept. We got to use that, because I'll tell you, like I talked about the Elon thing today in my video. I just said, hey, they're going after your grandma for fraud while they got rid of the agency that keeps banks from defrauding her. I mean, right there.
Right.
Boom.
Consumer fraud. Yeah.
That's what it
Finance
is.
Protection
It's
Board.
that simple of a message, but we gotta fit
We
our
need
message.
more, Jay. That's very good, Jason. I like that very much. It's funny. And you have the Southern accent, which lets you, it's like
Yes,
Dustin
it
Chafin who comes
does.
on.
It
And Dustin
Trojan
comes
horses
on.
me into a lot of
Right.
living rooms
All
I
right,
wouldn't get into.
Let's take a
otherwise.
break. We're going to come back and talk about a little bit more what more Democrats can do, plus some of the lighter things from the news of this week, because there actually are some. And just for our own mental health, you have to touch on some of them. So we'll be right back with more of what just happened right after this. And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're continuing here. It's Friday, April 18th. Maureen Langan, Jason Salmon, and Scott Blakeman. So here's one of the lighter things that happened. And maybe we'll go back to a political thing near the end. But look, I wasn't giving much thought to the women going into space. Women in space thing, they're going to send up on Blue Origin on Jeff Bezos's Amazon Prime spaceship. Katy Perry was up there, Gail King, Lauren Sanchez, who I don't know if they're married. Anyone know, are they married? This is his
Not
girlfriend.
married.
And there's
Getting
three other
married.
people. And then they went to an 11-minute expedition into space, 11 minutes, and it has given birth to tons of memes and jokes, and so much is about Katy Perry. And the one part was that she got out of, I didn't know what was going on. I see the image. She gets out of the ship first and holding something up to the sky. I'm like, what? It was a daisy. Then she gets on the ground and kisses the ground like she was in space for 10 months, like those astronauts. And it has really become almost cruel. So, Maureen, let me, as
Oh, yeah.
someone who's going to space soon, what is your take on this?
It was the Housewives of Outer Space, and it was, you know what bothered me about it? It was a show, and for the most entitled among us to take a nice phallic ride for 11 minutes when STEM programs are cut, when there are so many. I'm like, there was a woman there who actually is studying science and was a scientist on that. She wasn't front and center. She was an asterisk, a little footnote. This is something that they should have put young girls and women and old women and people who really studied science, who this meant something for. Maybe the mother who has 2 kids in high school who had to give up her career and longed to go to science. And then the scientist who's breaking new ground on something else, or this could have been an opera, but nobody would show any interest. You got to look hot in your outfits and sing. I mean, it was so performative. And
Do you think they cast the people by the outfit? Like, can you fit? Like,
you
remember
had
the
to fit in
famous
that. I
Brady
would never
Bunch?
be allowed up there. Are you kidding me? They'd be like, you're a size 10 out. What are you doing? But I'll
So
be waiting
it's an
to out.
outfit.
I'll be
It's
waiting.
like, do you think they justify it by going to weight requirement for the ship? We can't. And here's the thing. And then they measure their legs.
Embarrassing. It's embarrassing because there's so many hardworking women out there who are being cut at the knees right now without reproductive rights. Education is so important. And, there's just so much being cut. There should be people in the STEM program. There should be so many cool people who could have had an opportunity to experience that.
Jason, I found interesting that Wendy's, yes, the food chain, mocked her, and they put a picture after she landed. She was kissing the ground. Can we send her back? And another one playing on a song she sang years ago. I kissed the ground and I liked it. And she, her song was I kissed the girl and I liked it. But I'm like, when Wendy's is now, you're getting like, and where's McDonald's? Like, is White Castle going to join it? Like, what other things are? Why do we have other fast food places doing this? So, what does this say that Wendy's thought? We're going to take a shot at Katy Perry. No problem.
I feel attacked that you're coming to me on the fast food question.
Why?
Look, I'm going to eat fast
White
food for
Castle.
lunch, but that's beside the point.
That's fine.
I still, I think that the problem with a lot of this is like, hey, you know what? The guy who sent you up into space, his wife is actually the best thing he's ever done.
Right.
Is divorcing her and giving her half his money because she's actually helping people on Earth fix Earth. It doesn't help that it is a phallic shaped rocket that's sending all these women up there, and the only way that a decent scientist can get to space now is if she's a woman is going to be to go with some celebrity who.
Yeah, but Jason, truth be told, there's not a lot of vagina-shaped rockets to be had.
I feel like
about-
I feel like that's a design
So
based on men going, I feel like this is the thing that's going to penetrate space.
It's got to be this.
I mean, that's the same reason. That's the same reason people like Trump. He's America's penis. That's what he is.
They're our dick.
Yeah, he's weird color. He looks like he's wearing a helmet. I mean,
He's awful.
and they keep going to him even though he betrays them every time. They're like, we're still going to take your advice.
Yeah. I'd say though, I agree with both of you said, but the Katy Perry thing, I think they're piling on. First of all,
That'd be
if
me.
I went on a Ferris wheel and I get off, I kiss the ground. That's how afraid I am of heights. So I don't begrudge her going up in a rocket, which by the way, is especially if
Takes
it's Jeff
courage.
Bezos, it might not be that safe. They say it'll be delivered today, but it won't be delivered for 2 days later. So
Right.
I don't really trust it. By the way, it's just one big commercial for Jeff Bezos and his company.
Oh.
And I'm one of those guys. As a kid, I love astronauts and we need space exploration in a real way. But this was just a stunt. But I think they should lay off Katy Perry. And I don't look at Wendy's as the arbiter of wit in this country. I mean, they don't exactly make a contribution either.
Although they are
Check, I
qualified
like,
to be the
but-
Secretary of Defense, technically.
Yeah.
And Wendy's uses to get promotion for themselves. So they do this, and then they respond saying, "We were just being spicy, and we respect Katy Perry." I'm not even kidding. That we're just throwing a little spice. I'm like,
Fire
and
spicy chicken, right?
exactly, like that's what they're doing. They're like, and why don't you supersize that for just another $2.99? I'm like, what? That's why are you telling the reporter that? So So Wendy's just took advantage. I have no problem with Wendy's. They're doing the American thing. They're taking advantage of an opportunity to sell their product. Go ahead and do it. But yeah, it became the pylon on Katy Perry became
was
like
mean.
anyone. Jeff Bezos should be the person you're piling on. The guy who has changed the Washington Post from one of the greatest papers in the nation to something to fuel the corporate oligarchy that he wants to continue to usher in our nation. So I wish there were more jokes about him.
I think we should take a hint that all these billionaires who are slowly destroying everything on Earth keep like trying to figure out ways to escape our planet.
You know, right?
I mean, they're doing something. I mean, we're watching it happen.
Well, it was
That's
in that
their
movie
plan B.
Don't Look Back, I think, wasn't it?
Don't Look Up.
Adam
Don't
McKay,
look
where
up.
they
Don't look up. Right.
Don't Look Up. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, it's 20. They didn't pay obviously the people there, but the first time they did it, it was $28 million to get on. And let me just say right now, forgetting about Katy Perry, I would not set foot on there for 28 million. If it was at the half price ticket window at Times Square for 14
I
million,
can't afford
maybe
to
then.
upgrade my seat on JetBlue. What are you talking about?
Maureen, you see Maureen on JetBlue. She helps clean the cabin. She gets a discounted fare.
Sort of a garbage
She's a
man.
good So
No.
here's another thing. You remember, I thought this was, to me, the end of the story is the most intriguing, but Haley Joel Osment, everyone knows him, the creepy kid from The Sixth Sense. And the pictures of him now, he's just awful. He got arrested. He apparently had like cocaine and stuff, and his pants were falling down. He's calling the cops Nazis and all this garbage. The best part, and he's like, I'm an American. And like he's in America. Like he's yelling. It's not like he was arrested in a foreign country. It's like, you can't do this. They're like in Colorado or California, like, yeah, you're American and you're under arrest now. But then they do his mugshot and he smiles like it's a new headshot. Like this is an opportunity for him. And to me, that was the best part because they show him in the car, they show him screaming at the cops and all this. And then it's photograph time. He's like, just right into action. And I thought that was kind of like, what happened? Maureen,
I think if you do something anti-Semitic and then you smile for a photo, you are 100% jockeying for a position in this administration. I feel like that's the marketing ploy.
That's what Trump did when he was, arrested. He did the big, well, he did that tough look.
Go to jail.
Maureen, have you ever been arrested?
I have not. No.
Okay.
What kind of gangster, right? I am
what kind of Irish gangster from the
Irish
Westies?
gangster.
Do you know the Westies over here in the
West?
Upper
I read the book and I know about them. No, I wasn't. Oh, Jesus, you're more afraid of your mother than the cops or the principal or the teacher when you have an Irish mother. You shame the family. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. But I don't know how his pants were falling down because has gotten quite obese. I think he is eating the ice cream while watching the town hall meetings. But he doesn't look himself at all. But I had something. Can I just interject something here?
Please do.
We've been talking politics before. Now we're being making fun of anti-Semitic people, but and their mugshots.
Right.
The thing is, this new phraseology. I studied English and communication, so I'm just curious. When we say Trump is disappearing people, I never used disappearing in that context. People are disappearing. He's making people disappear. But now everybody's saying he's disappearing people. Is
like
that
a magician? Like a magician? Like if he says "tada" afterwards,
I never
it's
heard
kind
it
of
used
okay.
that way until
I think that was a military term.
No, it's a term used from like Argentina
1812?
and
Spain.
No. It's used in places where there are fascist regimes or autocratic regimes where
during
people
eras when the laws that they're basing their policies were made.
Right, and there's movies about that. There's a new. Well, no, it's actually I think it's technically accurate. I mean, like in a way.
Yeah, I do. I believe you.
The way that it's used because they've had stories like I've watched movies about 70s, 80s Argentina, Brazil, and stuff like that, and the term they used, they disappeared them into like a black site. They would say like they're gone and you can't find them. There's no due process, and then until the regime is done. And the regime is gone, sometimes they'll dig up mass graves and find bodies.
Well, see, I didn't know on this until we became this type of regime. So
exactly.
I was using disappearing in a different way. I didn't realize in America now we would have to have this in our lexicon in this way. So this is good for me to know. And so thank you for that.
Sure. I think I've also enjoyed that people use the word fascist a lot more now, and they didn't use it. It used to be only extreme. When people said fascist, I would roll my eyes. Yeah. Like, all right, I get it. Now you're like, oh, you're being academically accurate now. That's the world we live in right now. Okay, very last thing. So this is no hate to Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, but he had his new movie, The Accountant 2, and she came to it, and they're divorced again. And they cannot be allowed to get married a third time. That's sort of my whole point here. Like, I mean, I would support a law preventing Ben and Jen from becoming Bennifer again. Or maybe she's just there. It's the accountant and he owes her money. And he goes, I'm going to the accountant. It's like, oh no, it's my movie, The Accountant. I thought you were coming. So they had the premiere of his movie, The Accountant. Do you think, where did it come down? Jason, if they find love again, are you happy with a third time of this, or this should not be allowed?
I feel like they are the canary in the coal mine for what America keeps doing with Trump. It's like, look,
Ah,
it failed
interesting.
the first time. We got
Uh-huh.
Gilia out of it. You know, that's not something we're proud of. And then, it failed a second time, and we just got a bunch of Dunkin' Donuts memes with heavy-set Ben Affleck. So it's only going to get worse. Next time it happens, they're going to disappear, one of the two of
Sure thing.
them. It's going to be crazy.
Well,
I mean,
that
I
might,
think all this stuff ties to I think the entire downfall of America happened when Haley Joel Osment got beaten for Best Actor by Michael Caine with that silly American accent that he tried.
well,
And everybody's like, "Oh, he's a Brit trying an American accent for the first time. Give him the," and then boom, here we go.
we got
We're,
yelling
we're at
Nazis
the
at
we're at
cops
the
in
end of
California. Right. I'm an American. Like you're
democracy
in
and
America,
Haley Joel
idiot.
Osment's acting.
All right.
You do have
Do
to
you
yell
want,
you're an American in America now for people to
That's
know.
true.
And if you're
I,
That's true.
brown, they won't believe you and they will hold you for 2 days in Florida.
It helps.
That
It
you
helps
do
for
have
me.
to,
It helps for me that I look like an ICE agent. So I just switch
this
hats.
is Jason. I imagine you're scaring people when you walk into comedy clubs. Like people are like, he's
Sometimes
here.
I just like to walk on stage and go Trump and just see how the audience responds.
That's all right. And you know what? There are Trump supporters who cosplaying as ICE agents. My friend Jason Selvig from The Good Liars interviewed guys that were doing it because it brings them joy to be cruel to people who are
Yeah.
brown and see them. And this is really happening. All right. Well, I
Yeah.
want to give everyone a chance to plug their stuff before we run out of time. Maureen, where can people see your stuff?
please follow me at Maureen Langan, Langan on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and I will be doing a tour in London, Holland, Belgium, and Ireland beginning May 5th through June 10th. So follow me for all the dates and all that happy
That's
stuff.
great. It sounds like
Yeah,
fun.
I'm excited.
Scott, what
Yeah.
about you? Who Scott's going to Italy? Everyone's going somewhere.
Yeah, well, Scott Blakeman 5 on Instagram, and I do a podcast with Tom Saunders called Getting Through This with Tom and Scott, and I'm on regularly on Center Clip, an audio commentary platform. And June 22nd, and hopefully before and after, I'll be doing a show called Radical Left Lunatic, which I'm really not, but then again, either is the USAID or NPR or PBS or every other group that he calls that. So that's what I'll be doing.
And Jason, you'll be appearing at ICE facilities across the country. Is that what
I'll be doing the ICE Christmas ball because now Christmas is in July. Because
Right.
because Stephen Miller said it, and that's what's important.
That's it. Where can people follow your stuff?
My stuff, I do a weekly like minute and a half recap of all the news of the week every Friday. It's on all my social media at J Salmon Comedy, spelled like salmon. And you can find that there. And my special, Biscuits and Gravity, is on YouTube, and you can watch that for free.
Biscuits and gravity. Of course, I said gravy earlier because that's
Yes,
what I was
well, I
thinking.
wasn't going to get
But
on
it's
you. You got my
biscuits
name. You nailed
and
my name, so I
and
wasn't going to
gravity.
get
But I
on
said
you
it
for
last
the
time you were on. I said biscuits and gravity. I'm like, oh, what a clever plan of it. Well, all three of you have been great, and wherever you end up, whatever camp or facility that you're detained in, we will continue to do this the best we can from those places. Thank you so much.